Hello, everyone. My name is Kobe Cornell Boone. If this is your first time clicking on one of my videos, I first want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for even clicking on this video again and choosing to spend some time with me today. I am managing director and founder of Boone Capital. We are a Reg D 506C private equity firm that sits in the world of real assets, so land, ranches, timber, water infrastructure, all the wonderful things that come about the outdoors, man. So, pretty excited about today's video. We're gonna keep this one kind of tight for you today. About 10 minutes is the goal for today's video, and I want to share like a real world active property that we are awaiting confirmation of terms on. We submitted a LOI on this particular property. It's located in Dallas County, Texas. To give you a bit of the landscape, if you will. So this property was a former sand and gravel quarry mine, 356 acres. We have four lakes on this particular property, one of which we suspect to be upwards of 200 feet in depth. During the due diligence process, we'll actually have what's called, it starts with a B, it's called a Bethnic. I think it's a Bethnic drone that flies over the water and allows you to be able to scan the depth of the quarry, its layout, if you will, as well, what's actually down there. So I have a group that I've grown very close with, equity land partners out of Florida, who have the ability to be able to use those type of tools. So what I wanted to do with today's video as the fourth part of this AI, data, infrastructure, land, real assets kind of conversational world that we're having this week is to talk about, in very real terms, how conservation, ecological impact, wetland permitting, like that world has really elevated and contributed to my understanding of development and how to find alpha, if you will, find upside, find the value in a piece of property that has multiple exit strategies and optionalities. So let's get into it. So first things first, that property, we've got acres, we've got lakes, we've got location, we have a creek that goes exactly split through the property. A major creek is about 100 feet wide at its widest point. We've got paved road frontage. We've got recreational potential. We've got the obvious things, if you will. But over the next several weeks of doing this due diligence, as we're praying to be able to get this one actually under contract, is something unexpected has actually kind of happened. And it's that these conversations with these different conservation groups, different state agencies as well, environmental groups. For instance, I've been talking with Texas Parks and Wildlife, the Nature Conservancy, Trinity, Audubon, everybody who is anybody in the world of conservation or water as well. I've been having conversations with. And what I thought was initially, land evaluation, this property checked a lot of the boxes for us, has really become a masterclass in how value is actually created and for who. And that's because every stakeholder looked at the same exact property and saw something completely different. Even the private sector has looked at this completely different than what other folks have, and that changed the way I kind of think about land in today's time. So talking with the conservation groups, one of the best decisions I made was really picking up the phone with those folks. And it's so different from talking to investors or brokers. You're calling these folks and they're looking at land trusts, park developments, park departments, actually, water organizations, environmental stakeholders. And what fascinated me about these folks was how different their perspective was in regards to what you would hear from investors. Investors is typically, is this a tax aware strategy? How is this going to appreciate? What can we depreciate? Cost segregation studies, that kind of world, if you will. Whereas the conservation groups was more so what habitat exists today, what public benefit exists, what recreation value exists, what should be preserved, what is the biological biodiversity of this property, what the biological impact of developing this property. And it's the same property, same conversation I'm having with folks on the development side of the world. We're having the same similar, if you will, interest, but with a different outcome, if you will, for the same piece of property and different frameworks. So what am I saying there? That framework creates opportunities that most investors, I think, never get the opportunity to see. And speaking with my state agency that I'm gonna such have so much respect for, those folks over there at Texas Parks and Wildlife, what I learned really surprised me in that large acreage alone doesn't make a property fit your next state park or your even your next regional park, if you will. It's the right acreage, the right buffer zones. A property can be hundreds, even thousands of acres and still not fit a conservation or recreational objective. Meanwhile, a smaller property with unique characters may become extremely attractive to that local municipality as well. They're looking at water access, fishing, recreational activity, wildlife habitat, public recreation, restoration, regional demand, as I mentioned, connectivity to other parks and greenways that have already been created, and the scenic value for the consumer, which in this case would be the public. In other words, I would say they're evaluating utility, not just the size of that property. And that was a huge lesson for me, in that the market often rewards acreage sometimes, but organizations often reward purpose. What is highest and best use, if you will, for that piece of property? Um, Conservation easements. So really quickly, they preserve habitat, they protect open space, maintain environmental value, if you will, support long-term stewardship goals. And in certain situations, they create an entirely different path for a property, but not every property is a best fit for a conservation easement, if you will. But I think that every investor should understand that option because that optionality can again create some value for that end user as well. Water, something I'll continue to preach and teach on this channel, and it's something that's super important, especially when we're talking about the Texas Triangle, if you will, and that corridor between Dallas, Houston, Austin, and San Antonio. Is that it's increasingly becoming a part of the conversation, whether you're on the development side, a data center, whatever the case may be, or you're on the agricultural side. It's just one of those pieces that you cannot deny, especially when you have a tremendous amount of population growth and economic growth in these corridors as well. I would say, from an environmental considerations standpoint, I would say again, many investors view are very smart and intelligent folks. I want to make sure I share that, but they view environmental factors as obstacles, whereas environmental data helps reveal really what your possibilities are. And you've got two people sitting on two different sides of the table that really have that conversation in depth. And I think that's where alpha lies and where we kind of sit is that, hey, guys, we can play in the same sandbox and actually be able to achieve both of our goals by doing so. So I think in so many words for this particular video, what I'm seeing in real time and just having a conversation about is, as we start to look at some of the same resources, right? When we talk about water, for example, where there is both that development demand as well as the recreational demand, the environmental demand, more and more of these conversations are going to have to come about because we are utilizing, if you will, for lack of a better word, the very same resources. So if you're interested in this type of stuff, if you find it valuable, I ask that you like, share, subscribe, send this to somebody that you do know. I'll go a little bit further in depth as we get down the road with this particular property, but I'm super excited about what I believe we'll be able to accomplish as we work towards getting terms to go on a contract on this property. And until next time, God bless. Take care.